the talk show of the Climate Miles, and today the very last one, unfortunately, the 27th of November and already the 23rd Walkshow. And I have 5 very special guests who are all working mainly abroad or come from abroad and have a different story, because climate change is a very big problem and it's not always shown in the Netherlands, but it is seen very much in all other countries, and our behavior has a large effect on other parts of the world. And that's something we would like to discuss today, and also some of the solutions that you around the table here have to try to fight as much as possible the changes and make it feasible to live well for us ourselves and particularly for our children. We have a very special guest from France. Sofiane AMZIANE, you are a professor here and you work with bio-based materials.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that belongs to the solutions. We've had a previous walk show on sustainable building, because you are making a lot of materials that are suitable for buildings and are what we call part of the circular economy. Can you tell something about that?
Yes, I'm Sofiane AMZIANE from Clermont-Ferrand, which is in the center of France. And in fact, my research, I'm involved at first, after my PhD thesis, only in cement, the god of materials. And in 2004, I changed my mind because I saw that the climate change is due in a great part on the building materials. And I changed my mind, and I was very interested by the possibility to use other materials, and I think the best materials are coming from agriculture, because only wood and only the materials containing vegetables can capture and can make a stockage of the CO2, which is the great problem for the climate change. And from 2004, I'm involved only in this research 100% of my time.
So your building materials are capturing CO2 and not putting it into the air?
Yeah, capturing CO2 using only aggregates coming from agriculture, and also for the binder to change the cement with using, for example, aerial lime, okay, which the hardening of lime is made with capturing of CO2, or also using, for example, rice husk. Okay, you put rice husk in the oven, and then you can make a modern material coming from agriculture to supplement and to use it with cement, but you use only maybe 50% of cement and rice husk, and then you have a new binder, very eco-friendly binder. Okay, and this is one of the solution to reduce the impact of building material on the climate change.
And what materials? Because you told me you use sunflower. And
yeah, we can use. In fact, all the plants can be used as, but it's important to keep in mind that it's not agriculture for food. It's a co-product of materials. For example, if we take sunflower, the flower is for oil, but the stem, if we take only 20% of the stem of sunflower, okay, you crush this sunflower, and then it's an aggregate, very good for insulation, and you mix it with a binder, and then you have a concrete. And in France, we have a very nice and very big industry. You can make business with this, with hemp, with sunflower, with bamboo. Okay, we have a nice neighborhood, eco-neighborhood made with such materials. We have a very nice experience. We have it's not a dream. It's not houses for special guys. It's for the middle class. It's houses for the middle class. The price of such houses are the same, almost the same with traditional houses made with concrete, but very comfortable, eco houses. and there is no impact on the climate with this type of houses. We can use sunflower, we can use hemp, sugar, bagasse, we can use
and you said
everything.
The food part you still use for food?
Yeah, the food part is for food. We don't take any gram or kilogram of food to make it building materials. It's no sense to make this.
So
we take we make just a co-product, and then we have a circular economy. We use a part of agriculture to make it with capturing of CO2 to make it building, and then this building are renewable, are biodegradable, are very different that all of the development of the 20th century have made with concrete and steel.
That sounds like a good... before I'm going to ask you what you think about it, I think I should have started with the sfeerberichten. Because we here have geen weerbericht, but a sfeerbericht. And in English you could say we don't have a weather report, but
weather report. Weather report.
We ask people who have been walking with us what they think about this topic, and that's what we can see here on the screen.
Wij zijn eigenlijk als enige aan het joggen, hè, merk ik.
Ja, klopt.
We were bringing back memories of the trip. And we were looking back at our first weekend in Belgium. That morning we walked from Essen. How was that?
A long, long time ago.
Die vrijdag, waar waren we toen ook alweer?
Ik raak de dagen een beetje kwijt, moet ik zeggen, hoor.
Jeetje joh, wat een vraag. Dat lijkt wel een vorig leven, zo ver lang geleden.
Ik weet niet meer hoe het heette. Iets Frans met een dubbele naam.
Liepen we toen niet van Landrecies naar Bohain-en-Vermandois?
Nee, dat was donderdag. Oké, dus jij was er ook al bij in Nijvel. Hoe was dat?
Alle beelden, alle verhalen en alle namen lopen bij mij op helemaal door elkaar.
In Nijvel? Nou, ik zeg, herinner ik me dat niet helemaal. Elke dag lijkt op elkaar.
Oké, dankjewel.
Oké, 27 november, nog 1 dagje, de 24e mijlpaal. En Sabrina Stark gaat die vandaag slaan. Tot nu toe heb ik het overleefd.
Het spreekt eigenlijk voor zich. We kunnen allemaal, ik ben ervan overtuigd dat we allemaal iets kunnen doen. Elke individu, je kan het verschil maken, hoe klein het ook is wat je doet. En als je die liefde hebt voor de wereld waarin je leeft, dan maak je ook andere keuzes.
Heel mooi.
Prachtig.
Wat voor het mooiste gebied waar je tot nu toe doorheen gewandeld bent?
Ja, die uitgestrekte bossen rond Compiègne waren wel heel mooi. En ik vind de grote groene akkers en de kale akkers, die zo glimmende klei, dat vind ik ook heel mooi.
En ik vond vorige week zondag, toen het heel zonnig was, 22 november, ook een hele mooie dag.
Wauw, dus het hoogtepunt van jouw wandeling was eigenlijk
In het donker.
In het donker.
Door een bos, van Nederland naar België. Met als achtergrond muziek, het geluiden van het bos.
Wauw.
Dat is hem voor mij geweest tot nu toe.
Dat is ook wel echt iets van deze Climate Miles. Dat je dus je eigen landschap en het landschap in andere landen weer op een hele andere manier gaat waarderen en zien. Omdat je er lopend doorheen gaat.
Abiy Ashenafi, you are living in the Netherlands, but you are originally from Ethiopia. What do you see in Africa from well, the results already of climate change?
I think the impact of climate change is very severe. If you take, for example, Ethiopia, when people think of climate change, Ethiopia doesn't come into picture. Some people think small state islands have been severely hit, but Ethiopia is one of the countries which is suffering the consequence of climate change. How does that happen? Ethiopia has lots of reports show that the change in rain has impact on the agriculture, because agriculture and the way people are living is mainly rain-fed, rain-dependent. So if the rain is coming early or too late or too much, so that would disturb the whole system, and people are they farm, they plow with simple with cows, with oxes. So they farm sustainably, but to sustain also. They don't farm too much. So whatever they farm is just enough, maybe for a year. So if the rain crop fails in 1 year, so it's going to be really a problem, because they don't have enough food to sustain for a year. So the climate change would mean, maybe they have to move from that area. Maybe they have to suffer famine.
So does the rain pattern already, is it already changed?
Yes, absolutely.
It's not just 1 year, but
no,
for a longer period?
The longer period is the rain pattern changing. Now maybe Hussen could say a bit more what is happening now in Ethiopia. There is a severe drought in Ethiopia, which is actually affecting the south and the eastern part of the country. Maybe just to say a few things, and maybe Hussen could add to it. And in the eastern, southern part, you should imagine that these people who are living there, it's a relatively dry area, and pastoralists live there. They have cows. So usually it's also resource deficient area, water deficient area. But the pastoralists have found ways to deal with it. They know from the history which way to go to the first hole where the cattle could have their water, and then which route you should follow. After 4 days, you go to a different water hole. So they have their circle so that they could, survive. But if it's not raining upstream in the Ethiopian highlands, which has happened last year, the wells dry. It doesn't fill up. So they could, if they pass one well, the cows, they couldn't make it to the second well, which is maybe 10 days away. So what happens is, the cattle die. The people also, some people die, or they go to cities. So it causes a lot of migration and lots of stress to the country. So because of the agricultural system, rain-fed agriculture, and because of the rain variability, the impact of climate change is very severe on Ethiopia.
Yeah, because Hussen, you visited us a couple of weeks ago to tell this, that you have an area the size of the Netherlands that's seeing drought after drought.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank your organization and yourself on behalf of the millions of voiceless smallholder farmers that are climate victims, that are facing the challenge of climate change on a daily basis. You are doing your utmost efforts to make sure that their voice will be heard at the global stage. I thank you for your organization and yourself. Yes, of course, as Abiy explained it very well, Ethiopia is obviously the small, 85% of the population is agricultural dependent or related with that, and they have to depend, their family and themselves will depend on agriculture, which is a very traditional way of doing farming. And if the pattern of the rain changes, which as it is happening now, and for them it is it's a matter of life and death, and they are paying with their life as the result of that. Recently, in the last few months, the pattern of the rain changed, and it delayed with about months, and the volume of the rain was also very small. So close to, I would say, the population of the Netherlands are suffering from famine.
Are people moving then? Do they go to the city or to another country, or what do they do?
Well, at this moment in time, the government is doing in their best effort to deliver food aid, but that doesn't help, because they have also obviously a limited.
Sorry, can you speak up a bit? We don't hear it. Speak up a bit, Hussein, please.
Okay. So they have a very limited capacity. The government has a very limited capacity to deliver food aid for them, and they are trying their best. But it is not a food aid that can sustain their life. It is a long-term solution. How that can be done for them? How can they, build the resilience on the existing situation, the climate change that is happening every now and then? Obviously, the pattern of the weather is changing from time to time. So, how is it possible to build their resilience on climate change is the most important issue for those farmers whom we work with, whom are being affected by climate change.
Because Roeland Lelieveld is working in Kenya. I think you are planting trees, to say it simple. That's also a way of making them more resilient, I think.
Yeah, I saw the same effects, like overgrazing and erosion of and desertification of big plots of land in 2005, and then I got the idea to start planting trees. So in 2010 I started a company, Africa Wood Co Limited, to do reforestation and to make the area more resilient against droughts, and maybe if we grow big enough then rain can come back. But you see the effects of the forest what we have now. It's 5 years old, and you see the food production is higher, and cattle can graze in the shade of the trees. So you see some effects.
I was wondering, your solutions, are they only useful here in Europe, or is it also possible in countries in Africa to use both the food part of the plants and do other things with it? Have you looked into that?
I would like to be honest with you. This solution is not only for Europe, it's a solution for the world, because plant aggregate, because plant is in all the world. Then the solution constructed here in Europe is not only for Europe, and I have a number of colleagues in North Africa, in Africa, in Brasilia, are working every day on new solution using aggregate coming from agriculture. I think there is a lot of people in Asia, in Africa, in South America, and maybe the European and the North American are the less economically able to put this solution in the country. I am sure that in Asia and in Africa, this solution will be more easy to put it, because we have a lot of norms in Europe. We have a lot of laws and lobbies coming from cement industry, coming from steel industry, to to make this material not forbidden, but to go, yeah, you understand what I would like to say. And I think that in this paper, but there is also, we have to change the mentality of the world that a modern material is not cement or steel. A modern material is coming from earth, is agricultural material, is because this type of material, in fact, is high-tech material. If you look inside the vegetables, if you look the porosity of this type of materials, you look that the industrial materials are very, very far from this type of materials. I think it's important to, but if you don't look inside this type of material, you can't imagine the technology finally of earth, of particle aggregates made from sunflower. It's impossible to make an aggregate like sunflower with industry. Yeah,
so
industrial. Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think it's important to have this idea in mind, that this type of material are very effective. And I will show you just after that one slide.
Well,
yeah, yeah. You will see that this type of material. Yeah, this is a contribution of the building industry. This data, there is several data, but this data is for France. You can see that building materials, 20% of the CO2 are coming from building materials. Okay, the other data, the other slide, please. 1 ton of cement, 1 ton of CO2. In France, for example, every day, each French are consuming 1 kilogram of cement. Each day, every day, each French, yeah. And in the world, it's the same. In China, maybe it's the double. In India, maybe it's the double, okay? Then 1 ton of CO2 for 1 ton of cement, and each French have a consumption of 1 kilogram of cement per day. Imagine in a life.
Enormous.
Enormous. Okay? And this ton of CO2 is for all the story of our life. It's not it's not reversible, and you can change it. When you put 1 ton of CO2 in the climate, then you put 1 ton of, it's not reversible. Okay? Which is different, for example, with lime. Lime, it's an ancient material. With the Romans use lime. Lime capped CO2 for hardening, which is different with cement. Cement is a god of a material now of our civilization, okay? But in fact, it's have a great effect in the climate change. I'm sure about that. And if you see the data for steel is more than that. 1 ton of steel is more than 1 ton of CO2. Okay. The other slide? Yeah. There is a lot of things here. But just to see, for insulation material, all the insulation materials, synthetic or minerals, have an impact of CO2 in the climate. Okay? It's positive. The only material have a negative, not a negative impact, it's a
positive impact.
A positive impact, yeah. Yeah. A positive impact on the climate is coming from agricultures because CO2 is in the material. Okay? And there is hemp, sunflower, strawball. There is a lot of solution. And in each country, there is a local solution. In each country. The solution for France is different than the solution of Algeria or Morocco or Gabon or Ethiopia. In each country, you can find, and this is very important. If it's a solution, a local solution, there is no transport. It's effective rapidly, and you can make business inside the economy of the country, not an economy or a business for Europe as usual.
You have good advice for every country. You also have some slides, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. This is, I think, the other, just not this. Oh, okay, go.
Yes. Maybe to just come back on this. This is how an average Ethiopian farmer does. He plows with oxen, and it is pretty difficult. And you know, they have also small plots of land, so they do this, and maybe half an hectare or a hectare, they plow, and it's okay. But the thing is, if the rain doesn't come, so this guy doesn't leave. Maybe I could tell you, this is very interesting. This is actually the pastoralists. These are the two types of agricultural systems I was talking about. Actually, you don't see it in the picture. If you see carefully, there are actually women and inside the hole pulling out water, and so they are actually taking up. One is giving up, and the other they just then dump it there, and the goats and whatever the cows will be drinking it. So it's a very tight environment through which they live. Maybe I could tell you, maybe just back to the first, please. So maybe I could just tell you about this area. This area is called Nyangatom, and it's a tip southern part of Ethiopia, and they do have a very interesting way to talk about the climate. They have language describes actually the seasons. For example, if it's rainy, in their language they have saying the muddy time, the muddy months. And if it's a green, they say you know, if it's grass growing, it's a green month. You know, things like this. But recently, because of the rain is coming late and because of the climate change, the months doesn't say anymore what they used to do. So it doesn't fit anymore. During the muddy months, you know, it's green, and during the green, it's something else. So it's all mixed up. So the elders were coming together to say, how do we do with this? Do we have to change the language so that we can capture the situation? So I just want to give you that this is how serious it is, the effect of the climate change. Maybe Hussein, you could.
Yeah, actually, I'm also related to what we are currently doing as a company. We have a very small social enterprise company that is working with thousands of smallholder farmers in the Rift Valley area, where the Rift Valley, obviously, you know, from East Africa, it goes down to Kenya and to the west. What we do is to build the resilience of smallholder farmers. We take the waste coming from flower farms. You know, most of those flower farms are Dutch and Dutch investors in Ethiopia. Actually, it was literally their waste was a kind of climate threat, I would say, because they were dumping it just on a landfill. So we take that green waste and change it into natural fertilizer. Of course, it's a biomass from agricultural product. There is a priority. You know, obviously, construction materials are also out there, but food is a priority in Ethiopia because food security is a priority than any other thing. They can be in any shelter, but they have to feed themselves. So we provide them with compost so that they make sure that their soil is well in its structure, and they go into a more sustainable way of doing farming in a climate smart agriculture. We also train them, build their capacity to understand how to make their soil more resilient, I would say, or it's a moisture stress area. So we have to make sure that it also contains some moisture in a very dry season. So the way we are trying to work with smallholder farmers in making them food secure and climate resilience is obviously through building their capacity, train them, making awareness on the daily farming system they do.
Norman, you live in Australia, and particularly the northern part is very dry as well. I spoke with some farmers that said that it hadn't been like that for 40 or 60 years, and that they start to believe that it might be climate change.
Finally. And yet there are still so many people that are blaming El Nino, or they are blaming standard cycles of weather patterns. The north is not that bad because that is very typically in the cyclone belt, but in just south of the very northern parts, in particular southwestern Queensland, is ravaged by the worst drought in living memory. Where farmers are just going insolvent and they have no help. Some do fall into a particular zone where the government has declared a state of emergency with the emergency funding for the farmers, but others that are not so lucky to fall inside those boundaries are absolutely destitute. Their animals are dying. And yet at the same time, we have really terrible floods that are happening, that are 1 in 100 year events that are happening, and increasingly frequently. And while we have the droughts in some areas and the incredible floods in others, we have really exceptional storms that are 24-hour storms that are just incredible 100-year events again. Sometimes with hail, where the whole ground would be totally covered with hail, causing really bad damage to everything, all kinds of property, roofs of houses and cars. There was an event in 2010 in Perth. There are still cars driving around now with hail damage from that, that are just so amazingly bad. And then at the same time, we have also increased cyclone activities coming through from the north, right across from Cyclone Yasi in Queensland, right across the Northern Territory and the north of the Kimberley area of Western Australia. Incredibly increased activity of cyclones, both in terms of volume and in terms of frequency.
And you would expect that then your government would think, maybe we should do something about climate change, but you're still opening up coal mines and
sadly
not really.
And at the same time, we also have really bad fires. We've while we were on the walk, we had some really bad fires in my state in Western Australia that were so bad that properties were burnt down and people have been killed in the fires. Could be hard to imagine a more horrific way of dying, and not only the firefighters that are dying, but people that are getting trapped on peninsulas in the most amazing places, like including Tasmania, which is in the very furthest, one of the most southerly points of Australia, that are having these horrific fires. Last year we had these terrible fires happening in Sydney already in September. A Defence Force exercise went wrong, and there were fires that converged together and caused incredible destruction as early as September, which is really the beginning of our summer.
Is Australia then now in the front at the conference of the parties in Paris telling it should be done different?
Marjan, wouldn't that be nice if we were so? But sadly we are in the back of the bus doing the very worst ambition in climate change. We have not only a really conservative federal government, but also largely conservative state governments as well. Where I live, for instance, we have it's illegal actually for government officials to talk about climate change or global warming. They may not say those words. They have been given instructions that they may not say those words. And so you don't hear them. Our press doesn't report about it. And our government has abolished our Office of Climate Change. We have the very, very dubious distinction of being one of the first countries in the world to abolish a price on carbon, which our present government did 2 years ago. And sadly, although they are coming to COP now, our Prime Minister is coming next week to Paris, the ambition is horribly low, and there's still not a connection. So in terms of the coal mines you talk about, the minister responsible is saying that still that coal is good for humanity, quote unquote. That the poor people of India in particular deserve the right to get coal, which we in the West have, and that we should not withhold that right and privilege from them. This is the amazing narrative that we have. So.
Well, we have an amazing narrative too, because we have a podcast.
Even kijken. Ja. Zou je deze even voor me vast willen houden? Ja, heel goed. Ik denk dat hij hier wel past, zo. Ik vroeg me af, hè, we zijn nou een maand onderweg. Zijn er nou dingen die... het is een bolwerk van expertise, deze hele walkshow. Er lopen echt mensen met allerlei kennis mee. Heb jij nou echt dingen geleerd, nieuwe dingen waarvan je dacht van... wow, dat wist ik niet. Wat een leuk feitje.
Ja, ik denk...
Top. Eén feitje, dat weet ik niet direct. Nee.
Oké, dan schuif ik even naar iemand die alle verstand heeft van feitjes.
Het enige feitje wat ik al wist, is dat het slecht ging met het klimaat. En al die andere dingen was allemaal nieuw voor mij.
Nou, ik heb ontzettend veel geleerd van andere mensen die ook met weerstanden tijdens verduurzamingsprocessen te maken hadden. Hoe ga je om in moeilijke situaties om toch uit te komen waar je wil zijn?
Wat ik nog niet wist is hoeveel mensen er met zo ontzettend veel plezier bezig zijn om met elkaar er wat moois van te maken.
En die positiviteit die proef je dus bij iedereen aan tafel, bij iedereen die meeloopt?
Jawel, het gaat natuurlijk om een hele serieuze problematiek. Maar het is geen zware gebeuren.
Ik heb nog beter geleerd dat je met een enorme rijkdom aan verschillen toch hetzelfde doel kunt bereiken. Als je maar wilt.
Ik wil nog even toevoegen.
Bij mij blijft maar één vraag over.
Top, dankjewel. Oh, mijn arm sliep ook een beetje.
You must have seen that this was a very deep discussion. Roeland, what you are doing in Kenya is both creating jobs and making the soil more fertile, and you try to, well, make sure that the risk that there are will be a little bit less. Do you have the feeling that people there see that climate change is a big problem and that you have one of the solutions, or how are you seen there as a young entrepreneur?
That's very difficult. I can't say for everybody how they see it, like how we see it from a distance.
But you are most of the time here, and you every now and then you go back. Do they appreciate you more and more, and do they start to do their own thing? Do they follow your example?
Yeah, you see some people who have plots of land and have a nice job in Nairobi, that they buy seedlings and plant them on their plot of land to reforest it and to have some harvest after 10 years for maybe retirement or to bring their children to school.
So it's seen as an investment?
Yeah.
Are you also working with making new forests, or are you mostly trying to make the air or the area more humid and get more plants in your area?
Well, our priority is obviously, as said, making sure that farmers are building their resilience capacity towards climate change. The first thing is, of course, providing inputs and building their capacity in terms of training and awareness raising. The other thing is, obviously, as he said, also we ourselves started planting trees around our fence with the concept of 4F, the food, fodder, firewood, and fencing. and we want farmers also to get inspired with from us and do the same thing. And gradually, our plan is to start also permaculture, so that they can increase their household income. Alternative ways of getting other income other than only depending on one way of getting income from their 1/4 of a hectare from farming.
We did one thing that made a big impact. Is we put 2 kgs of charcoal per square meter under the soil, and the charcoal holds a lot of water and nutrients. In the rain season, when we have almost like 2 weeks rain or less, then it's full of water and nutrients. We saw like maize or beans, and then the water contains in the charcoal make sure that the maize or the beans have the time to grow and give their production.
Is that the biochar or charcoal?
No, just normal charcoal. Yeah, we just make charcoal. So we in the local way with we put some biomass and then earth on top, and we fire it. So there's no oxygen by the burning process, and the charcoal we use to produce more food.
You are working in a broader area in Africa and also on coffee.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
What's the result there?
The result, I come myself from the southwest of Ethiopia, and many people do not know, but southwest of Ethiopia is relatively has a very dense forest, dense dense tropical forest. So, and we came to realize that the coffee forest, the forest is being cut because of 2 reasons. So one is people are expanding agriculture, so that's why they are cutting the forest. And secondly, people are, they have to cook, so they cut the forest for firewood. So I am very excited, and I'm happy to tell you we have a very good project in Wallagga, southwest of Ethiopia, with Fair Trade Organization, Max Havelaar, and Fair Climate Fund. What we do is very easy. What we do is we train the local women to make fuel saving stoves, and that reduces the use of fuel wood to about 60-70%. So the women do not have to go to the forest every day or every other day. So they have. And the other one is that they when they cook in the traditional way, 3 stones, lots of smoke is coming, and that is really very bad for the eyes and for the lungs. And you see that if you go to a kitchen, the smoke is choking. And I have read that these traditional kitchens, if you stand there for 1 hour, it is equal to smoking 400 cigarettes. Wow. It's really so bad. So what we do is we try to build fuel-saving stoves so that the smokes become less, and we request also the local community to pay for it, to pay part of it, about half, and we raise the other half through other way, because you are also you are reducing, less smoke is coming. So you have the right, you build the right to carbon credits. You build a right to carbon credits. So what we have done in this special case is we have analyzed the carbon footprint of coffee from the region, from Ethiopia, up to the ports and to the Netherlands, how much carbon footprint it has. And after calculating that, we have said we also produce carbon credit from the cook stoves from the region, from the area, by the people. So we request, we have put on the market to say a product called carbon neutral coffee. That means people could buy a bit of a carbon credit that compensates from the carbon credit produced to compensate the whole chain up until the supermarket. In that way, we would take back the money to the farmer's home to build the cook stoves. And in that way, we have two advantages. One is the money is going back directly to the farmer immediately. That's one. Secondly, also that raises awareness in the north, in the people who are buying. I know that there are issues with compensation issues, but I think it is complementary. We need to reduce, of course, the Nords need to reduce their consumptions, the carbon the dioxide.
In the north, that's we, yeah?
Yes, yes. I'm also part of it somehow, but so it need to reduce. But what cannot be reduced could be compensated for part, and that money goes directly to the farmers. And I'm very excited about that project, and I think it's a very good project. Yes.
Good. I saw a few slides that you had earlier on the solutions, which went by very quickly. Yeah.
Yes, this. It's very interesting because, you know, the left photos is coming from Algeria, and you know, in Africa, the most expensive material, and there is a black market for this material, is cement. It's very, very, very expensive. In Senegal, and maybe it's more expensive in Africa than in France or in Europe, cement. And all the people, the dream is to have a house made with this cement, with this steel, reinforced concrete. And the right picture, in fact, is an eco-neighborhood here in France made with aggregate coming from agriculture. It's hemp concrete, sunflower concrete, 100% eco-material. If you go to the other picture, I think, yeah, this is an airport in China made with bamboo. And you can see that you can change the horrible architecture made with reinforced concrete, and I'm professor in reinforced concrete, you know? And it's very difficult for me in the morning to go with my student, my French student, to explain how you can design a construction with reinforced concrete, and in the afternoon I'm a researcher in biomaterials.
You have a double life.
Yeah, I have a double life. But thank you. But at the end, when I explain to my student that you can design, okay, Roissy-Charles de Gaulle, the airport of Paris, with reinforced concrete, and I put this photo, and I ask my student which is the most beautiful of the two. Okay, the response is very, 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 very simple for the student, because to calculate the structures with reinforced concrete is very hard. Okay, not because it's nice, but you see that we can have incomes, we can have money for agriculture, we can have a new way of construction, new way of life, finally, in the world, if we change our mind, if we change the deal with the peoples. If we explain this to the population of Africa, of Asia, and also of Europe, I think we can change also the climate, and directly, finally, we can also change, because the impact of the materials on the climate, we say, okay, there is an impact of energy, there is an impact of transport, but for transport there is solution also with agriculture, okay, with ethanol, there is some solutions with renewable energy, there is some solution with solar energy, there is in fact several. Yes, yeah. We have only to do it. Yeah, this is the good word. Thank you.
I think that's a night end before we have our very last film, because we always ask some of the people in the audience to write a special letter, either to their children or to their mother or to the Minister President. I don't know which one we have today, but let's have a look.
Dear world leaders, during my walk to Paris the last 4 weeks, I once again experienced how beautiful the world is in so many different ways. I walk this walk because I'm so worried about what will happen if we continue to spoil the beautiful earth. And I'm worried what indecisiveness about doing something about it will do to all of us. It would make me so sad if young people, like my daughter and my son, would decide not to have children because they don't trust the future. 1 week from now, you, as world leaders, will come together in Paris. Please make the right decisions when you're there. You are the ones that have to decide. No one else can. Please decide to make reducing CO2 emissions your #1 priority and to limit the rise of temperature to 2 degrees or less. Please do not take risks. Don't accept a dice that means disaster if you happen to throw an uneven number. As a citizen, as a father, I ask you, the leaders, please give direction to all our efforts as citizens and our desire to do what is necessary to stop climate change. Set the stage. Help us to do what is necessary in our homes, when we're traveling, in our companies. The technologies are there. Many studies have shown that they are sufficient. Now we need to take the right track. There is no other way. There is no other earth.
Well, thank you very much. It's already over, but we can talk later because I think there's lots of discussions here on the table which people would like to discuss with you. This was the very last Walkshow, so I can't say until tomorrow. We hope to see you back on Urgenda.tv, and I hope that you have enjoyed the whole month of Urgenda TV. Thank you.
Thank you.